We have Michael Thomas news, Gabriel Davis news, Chris Godwin news. We have so many injury updates that we need to update these rankings. Also, because there are so many viable wide receivers, we are going to go so deep on this video. Of course, I'm not going to include the players that already played on Thursday night. So we're going to go 36 wide receivers, not including Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, T. Higgins, Jamar Chase. So it's really 40 wide receivers we're ranking here. And of course, thank you so much, everyone, for coming, checking out the video. If you have not done so already, drop a like on the video, subscribe to the channel because y'all been smashing that like button and so many people have been subscribing. Check out this beauty. Thank you so much, everybody, for supporting. I'm going to continue to answer as many of those comments as I can down below with any questions you have. And of course, I need to say this. If you have somehow, some way not taken advantage of this yet, fix your life. Go sign up for Underdog Fantasy. On Underdog Fantasy, you can check out all these cool player props. And when you use promo code FLOCK and make your first deposit, they're going to match your first deposit dollar for dollar up to $100. And only for people who use promo code FLOCK are you going to get access to this Cooper Kupp special line at half a receiving yard. You can find the link in the description of the video. Go deposit $10 with promo code FLOCK. Then you'll have $20 in your account. Go bet the $20 on the Cooper Kupp over half a receiving yard. Available in damn near every single state. Make sure you get that free money. And let's go through. Let's dive into these rankings. First guy, Cooper Kupp going up against the 49ers. Second player, we are going to have Stefon Diggs, tier 1 here. We have a Gabriel Davis update we need to give you a little later on. But if Gabriel Davis were to miss, honestly, I'm fine if you wanted to go Stefon Diggs at 1. Because Stefon Diggs has the best matchup you could ever imagine going up against the Baltimore Ravens here. I mean, we really don't need to talk about this. Let's go down to tier 2, where we are going to have Justin Jefferson at 3. I have no idea why, but people are actually worried about Justin Jefferson. We have 2 slow weeks out of his entire NFL career. You're worried? The man had 187 receiving yards week 1. He's an elite stud guy. Plug and play him. And if you can buy him for a 10% discount, go and pay that price right now. We're also going to have Davante Adams in this tier. With Davante Adams, you have no Hunter Renfrow this week either. I mean, he didn't practice on Thursday, didn't practice on Wednesday. So I'm assuming he misses. We'll update you this weekend about Hunter Renfrow. However, if he does miss, I'm not expecting Matt Collins to come through and dominate yet again. I think that does go over to Davante Adams here. Now, dropping down to our next tier, we are going to have Amon-Ra St. Brown at 5. With Amon-Ra St. Brown, we are going to have to continue to monitor this ankle injury. He missed Wednesday's practice, Thursday's practice, but you definitely have to make sure you continue to monitor this ankle injury. And we're going to have Deebo Samuel at 6. With Deebo, tough matchup on paper going up against the Rams, but Stefon Diggs dominated week 1. Drake London dominated week 2. Hollywood Brown had a great week 3. Not too concerned. We're going to have Mike Evans at 7. I'm going to give you a Chris Godwin injury update, Julio Jones injury updates later on in this video when we talk about Godwin. Let's go down to our next tier. Let's go over and look at Michael Pittman, 8. Pittman, not much to talk about. Bad offense or bad offense. Looks like Jonathan Taylor's going to play. And I don't hate the matchup against Tennessee. It's kind of whatever. And we're going to have A.J. Brown at 9. Obviously, Devonta Smith dominated this past week. Dominated. I still think A.J. Brown is the wide receiver 1 here. And right now, Vegas does have the Philadelphia Eagles as about 6.5-point favorites over the Jacksonville Jaguars. I think you can play A.J. Brown easily. Now, going down to our next tier, we're going to have Hollywood here at 10. Looks like Rondale Moore is going to play this game. And what's surprising is Vegas currently has the Carolina Panthers as 1-point favorites over the Arizona Cardinals. However, I don't really care. I think that Hollywood Brown is a must-start guy every single week that DeAndre Hopkins misses. So don't overthink this. Just go play Hollywood Brown. We're going to have Sutton at 11. With Sutton here, while Jerry Jeudy's dealing with the shoulder injury, while Jerry Jeudy's dealing with these rib injuries, he is the bona fide stud alpha wide receiver 1 in Denver. Long term, however, I still think that Jerry Jeudy can actually establish himself as the wide receiver 1 for Russell Wilson, even though Courtland Sutton looked great this past week with the banged up Jerry Jeudy. And now our next guy is going to be CeeDee Lamb at 12. With Lamb, I am concerned that this may not be as good of a situation as what we had this past week. You do have Michael Gallup coming back. At the same time, you have Dalton Schultz coming back to this offense. Still should be very bad until they get Dak Prescott here. But just imagine the week CeeDee Lamb would have had if he did not drop that beautiful deep ball. And then we're going to have Christian Kirk, 13. With Kirk, I understand people probably want him higher than this. People are probably mad at this ranking. And now we had James Robinson a little bit lower as well. I just really don't like this matchup going up against the Philadelphia Eagles. I think Philly has a great defense. And as we said, they are touchdown point favorites here. Now we are going to go down to our next tier, led off with Deontay Johnson, 14. We moved our guy up. Because here with Deontay Johnson, this is a wide receiver that has had 10 or more targets every single week this season. He averaged more than 10 targets a game last year. I think he's a target hog. I like the matchup against the Jets. I think it's one of the very few games the Steelers can actually win. And then Devonta Smith at 15 here. With Smith coming off the monstrous performance, going up against the Jacksonville Jaguars is going to be a matchup where it is kind of whatever, as we already discussed. The Philadelphia Eagles are favored by about a touchdown. Now we're going to have Jerry Jeudy 16, which Jerry Jeudy is going to slowly climb these rankings as hopefully Russell Wilson gets better for this team. And also as Jerry Jeudy gets healthier from both the shoulder, the rib / chest injury, whatever you want to call it. Then we're going to have Gabriel Davis at 17. With Davis, he practiced on Wednesday, missed practice on Thursday. So we are 100% going to have to monitor what his availability is for Friday's practice. He may be a player trending towards not playing at all. And as we discussed, if that happens, you got to bump up Stephon Diggs. But hell, with Gabriel Davis here, going up against the Baltimore Ravens arguably have one of the worst secondaries in the NFL, giving up 6 passing touchdowns to Tua 2 weeks ago, giving up 150 receiving yards to Devontae Parker last week. Play Gabriel Davis if he plays. And then our next 2 wide receivers, I don't know how to rank them. Going up against the Houston Texans, we're going to have Mike Williams and Keenan Allen. So Keenan Allen had a limited practice on Wednesday, limited practice on Thursday. However, there's a tweet that said that Keenan Allen left practice with a trainer on Thursday. I don't know if this is legit. I don't know what to expect. So, of course, we need to monitor the Friday practice report with Keenan Allen. I thought he was trending towards playing, but if Keenan Allen were to miss, Mike Williams jumps up to the Christian Kirk tier. However, if Keenan Allen were to play, I would be very worried about Mike Williams in this offense, with Keenan Allen historically taking about 10 targets a game when he is healthy. Now, going down to our next tier, we're going to have Amari Cooper at 20. I get it. I understand why you would want to have Amari Cooper a lot higher than this. Maybe I'm stupid for having Amari Cooper this low. Back-to-back monstrous performances. Not even a bad matchup going up against the Falcons. But I will say, this is still a team that wants to run the ball every chance they get. They still have Jacoby Brissett under center. With Jacoby Brissett under center, I think that we should assume that Amari Cooper takes a step back compared to what we've seen through the last 2 weeks for the Cleveland Browns. Now, I have Amari Cooper in so many high-stakes best ball drafts because I thought he was going to be an elite option for the fantasy football playoff tournaments in weeks 15, 16, 17 when we get Deshaun Watson back in Cleveland. I'm still going to be a little bit hesitant, however, until we actually get Deshaun Watson in here for the Cleveland Browns. Now, our next guy is going to be Chris Olave, 21. So Michael Thomas missed practice on Wednesday and Thursday with the toe. Jarvis Landry practiced on Thursday. So it's going to be another situation. We need to monitor the practice report that we have on Friday. If Michael Thomas looks like he's going to miss, bump up Chris Olave even higher than this. If Michael Thomas and Jarvis Landry miss, bump up Chris Olave, maybe as a low-end wide receiver 1, high-end wide receiver 2. It's a rookie wide receiver that dominated 14 targets last week, 12 targets the week before. The week before last, he led the NFL in air yards. Don't hate the matchup going up against Minnesota. Now, I will say, I have no idea what to expect with these games that are getting kicked off at 9 in the morning. You have this game getting kicked off at 9 in the morning in London. I mean, we always know that with Thursday night games, there's some randomness. There's a little bit of volatility. With these London games, you don't know what to expect. Let's go Olave, 21. We're going to go Drake London, 22 as well. Drake London has taken a small step back from where he was 2 weeks ago against the Rams, but that is just with Kyle Pitts taking a little bit more in this offense. I do think that you have Kyle Pitts, Drake London as co-wide receiver ones here. I think that you can kind of include Kyle Pitts as that wide receiver. Going up against Cleveland, don't love the matchup, but Drake London's a stud, even if we don't love Mariota or going up against the Cleveland Browns. Now, our next tier is going to be led off with Michael Thomas, 23. So there's an outside chance that Michael Thomas is a wide receiver that doesn't play. Of course, I'm going to go through and on Saturday, I'm going to give you every injury update that we have. So just make sure you're subscribed. Make sure you hit the bell next to the subscribe button. That way you don't miss it. Now, our next guys are going to be the Washington receivers, Terry McLaurin and Curtis Samuel here, 24 and 25. I mean, with the Washington guys, these are players that have been great so far. However, I do think that Carson Wentz takes a big step back, as we talked about 2 weeks ago. I don't think Carson Wentz continues to average 300 passing yards a game. Jahan Dotson didn't really have any production last week, but Jahan Dotson had double-digit targets as a rookie. I think he continues to expand his role. I don't like the matchup going up against the Dallas Cowboys, so I'm going to be a little bit lower than most on Terry McLaurin and Curtis Samuel. Now, we're going to have Brandon Cooks at 26. Everybody and their mom hated how low we ranked Brandon Cooks a week ago. But as we've said for God knows how long now, I don't get why everybody thinks Davis Mills is the most underrated quarterback in the NFL. I don't see what you're seeing with Davis Mills. I think that this is a very bad team. Even with no Joey Bosa, I'm still not ecstatic to go up against the Los Angeles Chargers defense, even if they just allowed 38 points to Trevor Lawrence and the Jacksonville Jaguars. I think the Jacksonville Jaguars are a much better offense than the Houston Texans. I think Brandon Cooks gets the target share, but if the offense is going to be this bad, I don't know if we can go with him. And then we're going to go DJ Moore at 27. With DJ Moore going up against the Arizona Cardinals, I want to say, well, if Christian McCaffrey misses with the quad injury, then DJ Moore is going to be so much more appealing. I want to say that. But at the same time, Christian McCaffrey hasn't been getting his 7, 8, 9 targets out of the backfield this year. Christian McCaffrey's only been seeing 3, 4 targets out of the backfield this year on a per game basis, as if he's a normal running back here. So it's not like we can say, oh, CMC missing the game's going to open up so much more for DJ Moore. Oh, I don't really think the volume changes. I think that DJ Moore is very similar to Brandon Cooks, a very good wide receiver in a very bad offense. And in a very similar situation, we're going to have DK Metcalf going up against the Detroit Lions. Love the matchup here for DK Metcalf going up against the Lions. But what I will say is he's playing with Geno Smith. Tyler Lockett is still getting a generous amount of targets here. So if we have DK Metcalf, not even as the solidified, bona fide wide receiver 1 in his offense, if it's more like a wide receiver 1A, wide receiver 1B type situation, and Geno Smith's your quarterback, it doesn't really matter how talented DK Metcalf is. I think the ceiling may be a little bit capped. But when I say that, of course, we have to acknowledge the fact that DK Metcalf could go out there and have any reception turn into a 70-yard, 80-yard touchdown at any moment. And then we're going to have Garrett Wilson at 29. Love buying Garrett Wilson for the long term. Garrett Wilson was on our buy low wide receiver video this past week, because if you go through and look at how efficient he has been on a per snap basis, on a per route run basis, Garrett Wilson has been phenomenal. However, we have yet to see the New York Jets decide to go through and allow Garrett Wilson to play more than Corey Davis, to allow him to play more than Elijah Moore. I think in the long term, when we get these snaps up, when we get more routes run for Garrett Wilson, he will be a consistent top 24 option for us. Can't wait for it. But for the time being, especially in a tougher matchup against the Pittsburgh Steelers, I'll be a little bit more hesitant with Garrett Wilson. And I know a lot of people are saying, what do you think about going from Joe Flacco to Zach Wilson? I think you're going from a bad quarterback to a bad quarterback. If we were looking at Joe Flacco through the first 3 weeks, of course, this would have never maintained. But through the first 3 weeks, Joe Flacco was at the top of the NFL in passing. I think a lot of those stats were a little bit skewed. It was a small sample. It was never going to maintain. I think the passing volume kind of comes down in New York, regardless of if it's Joe Flacco or Zach Wilson under center. And now our last wide receiver. Do not like the matchup. Gonna be Rashad Bateman. Of course, we need to monitor how many of these defensive backs for the Buffalo Bills are going to miss this week. But honestly, I just think that this is such a good defensive unit in general. And at the same time, with Baltimore, with Lamar Jackson, we've discussed this coming into the season. Even if you love Rashad Bateman, Mark Andrews is going to be commanding 30% of the targets here. Lamar Jackson is going to be picking up so much as a rusher that I don't know if we're ever excited to have Lamar Jackson's second passing option if Mark Andrews is that bona fide stud alpha. Rashad Bateman was very good through the first 2 weeks. However, those were primarily driven through 2 long receiving touchdowns, something that's very hard to project going forward. Now, our last tier is going to be led off with Brandon Aiyuk at 31. Going up against the Rams, as we discussed, it's a tough matchup on paper against a good Rams defense, but the Rams have been allowing wide receivers to go off against them. And at the same time, right now, Vegas has the 49ers as favorites in this game. Maybe this should be telling us something here. Aiyuk had the volume last week, scored a touchdown as well. I think it's a fine spot to rank him. And we are going to have at least one of the most disappointing wide receivers this season. Juju Smith-Schuster here at 32. I did not draft Juju this year. However, he bamboozled me after week 1 when he got you 8 targets from Patrick Mahomes. I was like, okay, well, looks like Juju's someone we can rely on. Of course, we were wrong, but going up against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, I think that this can be a shootout game when it looks like our next guy here, Chris Godwin, has a shot to play. Also, Julio Jones, back-to-back limited practices on Wednesday and Thursday. Looks like Julio Jones going to play. Mike Evans going to play. Russell Gage is going to play. And Chris Godwin did practice on Wednesday, and he did not practice on Thursday, but they did not list it as an issue with the hamstring. They just said rest. I don't know if this means he plays. It's very hard to figure out. Of course, you would not be excited to play Chris Godwin his first week back if he were to go. But I will say it would be a beautiful matchup where this could potentially be that shootout type performance between these two teams. So I think we kind of have to include Chris Godwin here if we're going to go this deep in the rankings. And now our next guy is going to be Romeo Dobbs going up against the New England Patriots. The Packers are about 9.5-point favorites here, where I think that this will be a team that is able to just run the ball consistently in the second half. And with Romeo Dobbs, he did look great this past week against Tampa. We know Tampa, you can't run against them. But at the same time, you had no Christian Watson. Now Allen Lazard is 100% good to go. Christian Watson looks like he's going to play in this game as well. So I don't think Romeo Dobbs is a breakout guy that's all of a sudden a top 24 receiver that you plug and play every single week. I think definitely we would rather have someone like Garrett Wilson in there. Now Isaiah McKenzie going to be our next guy at 35. Isaiah McKenzie, beautiful matchup going up against the Baltimore Ravens. If we were going to have an offense with 3 wide receivers inside our top 36 rankings, it has to be the Buffalo Bills. Clearly, this is a team that wants to throw the ball with aggression. I think that Josh Allen could have 6 passing touchdowns in this game. Of course, it's not likely, but it's a possibility. Now, if Gabriel Davis were to miss, bump up Isaiah McKenzie. If you had no Gabriel Davis, I definitely think Isaiah McKenzie has to be inside the top 30 with the tier of guys starting at Michael Thomas. Now, our last player is going to be Jakobi Meyers. With Jakobi Meyers, I don't know what to expect. We don't have, I don't even want to talk about him. I just kind of had to put someone here. Instead of having Jakobi Meyers, can we put a little question mark guy? Because we don't have Mac Jones here. Going to be a very gross spot. And instead, can you go down to the comment section? Let me know who you think belongs in this top 36. Let me know you think I'm stupid for leaving off. And of course, drop a like on this video, subscribe to the channel, and make sure you take advantage of this. Go sign up for Underdog Fantasy. Check out all these player props. It's signing up for Underdog Fantasy. They'll match your first deposit dollar for dollar up to $100. And only if you use promo code FLOCK on Underdog Fantasy are you going to get access to this Cooper Kupp over under half a receiving yard line. Make sure you take advantage of that. But thank you again. I appreciate you. I hope you have a great day, and I'll be good to see you in the live stream tonight.